Good morning and welcome to the final webinar in our Reopening Hospitality series. Last but not least, we are joined by John Woodforth and Stuart McLean from Zonal, who will be discussing how to drive customer journeys through technology solutions. As always, we encourage you to submit your questions via the chat function in the panel, and Stuart and John will do their best to answer the questions at the end of the presentation. Over to you both.
Thank you, Chana. Thank you. So thank you for the introduction and welcome to today's webinar on customer journeys through technology. First, to introduce myself quickly, I'm Stuart McLean, the CEO of Zonal, and I have John Woodforth, our CTO, with me today. He'll introduce himself in a second or two. So just quickly on Zonal, we're the premier technology supplier in the UK hospitality industry. We've been around for over 40 years. We're a big supporter of UKH and the industry as a whole. I'll pass you on to John now, who will introduce himself and talk through today's presentation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm John Woodforth. I'm the CTO here at Zonal. My main role here in Zonal is about driving technology innovation and our technology strategy as we continue to evolve our technology solutions to really support connected customer journeys. So it's a real pleasure and honour to be able to speak to you all today about that topic. Personally, myself, I've got a long-standing history in retail and hospitality, working with some big global IT organisations. So hopefully bringing all that experience to bear in my current role here at Zonal. One of my passions is around connected technologies. So it's really about joining technologies up to facilitate kind of end customer journeys. And you'll hear a couple of my sort of favourite buzzwords throughout this presentation about frictionless and personalisation. And I think those two words you'll see through the next slides will kind of feature quite heavily. I think they're really at the heart of connected technologies and journeys. So today I'm going to be talking through just that and really explaining the role of technology solutions in these end-to-end customer journeys. And I'm really trying to present a unified landscape of technology solutions to, as I said just a minute ago, facilitate frictionless but personalised customer journeys in the hospitality environment. So really, we've got these main stages that I'm going to focus on today. The first one's about attract and engage. This is about how we get people into our venues, how we know about our customers, our consumers, and how we can use that information then really start this journey off, this connected journey through their visit to us and maximise their enjoyment. Obviously, all that data feeds through into booking, so I'll talk a little bit about the booking process and where that information is used and how that drives a frictionless process through that booking step and make that as efficient as possible. And then really how we carry that information through to in-venue. And this is obviously where the magic happens and where we can really make a difference to a customer's experience within the sites. Payment is becoming just an absolutely huge topic. So I couldn't talk about any connected technology landscape without mentioning payment. And we'll just touch on some of the innovative areas around payment and the role that plays as well. And then finally, we'll talk about feedback and reflection. And this is really important, and as we'll see, this really kind of closes the loop back through to attract and engage, and really provides us with invaluable data and feedback around the journey, gives us insight as to where we can improve and where we can get better. So let's dive into the first area. So looking here at attract and engage. So there's certain aspects here that we want to just drill down into, and specifically these are around loyalty, offers and wallets. Now, obviously loyalty schemes are an absolutely amazing way of gathering data and really linking them up to our consumers and our customers. The type of information that we obviously want to store here are things like allergens, so we can flow that all the way through the booking process, make sure that's well known when they're in venue, all the way through the process. Things like knowing people's requirements. So is somebody vegetarian or they're vegan? We can link all of this sort of information into the loyalty scheme. Loyalty schemes are an absolutely amazing way of combining this information together. And the other couple of areas here are offers. So, and again, the offers, really this is where the kind of personalization starts. We want offers to be as personalized as possible. And through understanding some of the demographic and segmentation information we can get out of the loyalty schemes, we can really target those offers to individuals. And really make sure they're relevant. So we definitely don't want to be sending 25% off your next steak to a vegan, for example. So really targeting these offers is absolutely key. We need somewhere to store those offers, and again, linking through to the personalization piece. Wallets are becoming a kind of well-known mechanism to store all the offers. And as we'll see later, linking through into the payment mechanisms as well. So building up those customer wallets that are linked to individual customers, that are secure and safe, is really a foundation of this whole connected journey. So flowing through into the booking, just before I get there, just some stats on attract and engage. So you can see here the stats around the importance of loyalty schemes. The top 49% of consumers say that loyalty schemes are important. 47% use a loyalty scheme every time they visit. So the importance of loyalty schemes is absolutely critical. There's an interesting stat there. 16% of members are members of more than one loyalty scheme, and that's quite a low stat, which tends to kind of point towards brand affinity. So getting people part of the loyalty scheme, getting them as regular customers is absolutely critical. So we'll just move through into bookings now. So as you can see here, there's really three main areas of booking. So events, pre-order, and reservations. And certainly we're seeing a big shift into pre-ordering and having technology solutions that can facilitate making a reservation, but also placing a pre-order at the same time. So if we can get people to place that order ahead of time, it kind of gives choice to our consumers, but it also gives valuable data through into the supply chain side of things, so into our kitchen, so we can preempt the demand for specific foods, specific ingredients that are feeding into the kitchen. Reservations, as we've seen ever since the last kind of eat out to help out thing, and with the rise of the pandemic, is just absolutely critical. More and more people now are pre-booking before they visit venues. And that's all kind of wrapped up into event management, and event management's becoming an even bigger thing for us in hospitality. The ability to set the event up beforehand, take deposits from people, make the pre-orders so that people have placed all of that, and then also flow that through into in venues. So when people are arriving, people can remember what they've booked, what they've ordered, what they paid for, etc. So really using that kind of attract and engage, the information that we know about our consumers through into that booking process is absolutely critical. Again, a few stats around this. 76% of consumers have pre-booked to eat or drink since last summer. So this stat we've seen rise quite a lot, and it really shows the demand driving into pre-booking, bigger than it was pre-pandemic. So if next we move on to in venue, so there's quite a lot to run through here in venue. And one of the bits I want to start off with is in the top left here, the channel management. Obviously a big shift as we've gone through the pandemic is around people doing a lot more kind of click and collect, a lot more Uber ordering through online delivery sites, and that extra feed of orders coming into venues. Now, obviously during the pandemic, that's been an absolutely critical feed, and has kept a lot of the hospitality industry alive while we haven't been able to be open. But as we move forward now, post-pandemic, and as we start to come out, it's actually going to present a real unique problem for us. If you imagine in the past, you'd always be able to see your customer base. You'd be able to look out into the restaurant, into the pub, and you'd be able to see how busy it is. You'd be able to see the direct correlation between the pub being busy and the number of orders flowing through into the kitchen. But now that's a lot less visible. So if you suddenly have a flurry of orders through click and collect or some online ordering streams, that feed of orders is now competing with the demand from within venue. And this is really where technology can come in to help visualize the different sources of orders flowing into hospitality sites, and even providing us a way to manage that. So do we look at our most profitable streams? Do we look at our most expedient streams? Do we focus on kind of e-commerce orders? Do we focus on our present customers? And really placing that control into the hands of managers within the sites is absolutely critical. And that's also really closely tied to kitchen management, making sure that we've got the right stock on hand, we've got the right stock visibility, that it's really up to date, so we know what we're committing to through all the different channels, what ingredients we've got, what we're cooking, and really turn times. And this really links us down into the mobile ordering. I think one of the things that's absolutely critical here is really showing people how long their orders are going to be. And this is something we've seen as constant feedback that consumers would like, and they have, top frustrations in restaurants is about not knowing how long their orders are going to take to come out. So that kitchen management piece, there's so much data in there, and I'll come on to the wider role of data shortly, but there's so much rich data flowing through the kitchen that we need to expose and make use of in a kind of wider sense. So just returning to that mobile orders piece, I think this has been an absolute game changer for us, and the rise of mobile ordering, the rise of the order and pay app, and the increased adoption of that as we've gone through this last year or so during the pandemic. I think there was already a trend there that was sort of showing an increased use of mobile ordering, but the pandemic's really expedited that, and the amount of mobile ordering now is just increasing constantly. There's some interesting stats which we'll come on to later about the continued use of mobile ordering, but I think it's fair to say that that mobile ordering is sort of here to stay for the future, and it's a critical part of this connected journey. Taking data through from the booking, so who's made the booking, which table are you sat at, through into that mobile ordering app. Again, making it all personalised as we go through is absolutely key. I think the mobile ordering piece really plays into that frictionless piece really well, and making it really easy for people to place the orders and feel in control. There's a lot of stats and feedback about the placing orders through the mobile applications really makes people feel a lot more safer and in control of their journey through this sort of end-to-end ordering process. The one bit that is absolutely critical as we go through this, with frictionless, you're making things easier, personalization is not making this process sterile. So we know that people want that server interaction in sites. Hospitality is all about personal interactions. So it's absolutely critical that the technology facilitates these personal interactions. Specifically, arriving in venue, knowing who's booked, being able to greet people, linking bookings to tables so that mobile ordering can it knows which table you're at. You don't have to re-enter table numbers, all this kind of thing. Just really making it seamless and frictionless as we go through that journey. I think one of the other things that mobile ordering helps with is kind of resilience and making sure that you're not there trying to flag down somebody to come and take your order. You're in control. Somebody can come over, they can help you with your order. Maybe they've even got staff apps where they can help you place that order or place that order on your behalf. These are all kind of technology things around the mobile ordering space that can really drive that frictionless experience. So I mentioned earlier about the personal interactions. There's an interesting stat here about consumers preferring to be welcomed in person when they arrive. And I think this stat's a great reminder of not making this a sterile experience. We don't want people to just arrive, go to their table, order things on the app, and then have things brought to them, pay, and then leave without talking to people. We really need to focus on this personalization, not only making things relevant to people, but also making it have rich personal interactions as they go through this journey. There's another interesting stat here about the rise of mobile ordering. And I think this stat is just set to increase. So, I mean, at the point the stat was put together, 45% of consumers have ordered on a mobile device. I think the mobile ordering is becoming more and more common. And in some ways now it's becoming expected that people want to arrive in site and to be able to have the option to just pull a menu up on their mobile device, place an order, and then be able to see that order progress through its life cycle. So know that it's in the kitchen, have comfort that they know how long the food's going to take to come out, maybe even have some push notifications back so that they can see that the food's been prepared, the drinks have been prepared, and that they'll be brought out and they'll be with the consumer fairly shortly. So really this brings us on to payment. And there's a number of things around payment that means it's really an ever evolving landscape. And I mentioned earlier about wallets and stored payments. And I think again, it links back to this frictionless word, making it easy for us to pay at the end of the experience, and making that frictionless is absolutely key. I think there's a lot of stats around people's frustration. You get to the end of the meal, you're trying to flag somebody down to get the bill brought over. You then get the bill, you sat there waiting for somebody to bring a payment device over to take the payment. Putting the control of that payment flow back in the consumer's hands so that they can use a stored payment, whether that's vaulted within a wallet somewhere online, or whether that's vaulted in their own mobile payment device, such as Apple Pay, Android Pay, but making sure that they can use all of the payment mechanisms available to them in an easy way, their own sort of leisure, their own timescales, is absolutely critical. And certainly, the payment landscape is something that we're keeping a very close eye on here at Zonal, because I think this area is going to evolve a lot over the next few years. There's an interesting stat here about consumers being able to pay immediately and wide choice of payment options being the most important aspect of settling bills. And if you think of all the other aspects of kind of settling a bill, of the frustration with bringing servers over, etc., having this choice of payment options here is really backed up by the industry stats that we're seeing. So really, the final stage of this that really pulls everything together is feedback and reflections. So truly understanding the journey and the consumer's feedback at the end of the process is absolutely critical, because that both not only gives us a way of evaluating their satisfaction with, say, the bookings process or their journey through in venue or their payment process at the end, but it gives us a way of feeding data then back into the attract and engage. So if somebody's had a bad experience, for example, being able to offer them a discount for the next visit in site that's added into their wallet, that then gets added onto subsequent marketing information or is there and available to use in their app the next time they come in, is absolutely critical. And likewise, maximising on a good experience. Can they recommend friends, for example? Are there rewards that can be given for recommending people? So this feedback and reflections piece is really important. And I think the technology solutions available now take this well beyond historic surveys of asking kind of sterile questions about various different aspects. I think it's very similar to a kind of when your friend goes on holiday, they get back, you don't step through and ask them, what was the hotel like? What was the pool like? What was the flight like? You ask them, how was their holiday? and they tell you the good bits and they tell you the bad bits. And it's this kind of feedback and reflection that we want to maximise on. Understanding what are the good bits, what are the bad bits, how does that relate to the server that served them, the venue that they were in, the booking route that they used, for example, and then being able to feed all of that back to personalise the journey even more next time. This bit's just absolutely key in really closing that loop. Now, before I mentioned the role of data, and I think taking data from each of these points is absolutely critical in joining all of this up. And that's for two kind of main reasons. One, so that we can understand the effectiveness of each individual component. But really, with near real-time data flowing through from each of these different steps, it allows us to drive decision-making based off that data. And that's where an interesting topic around AI comes in. I personally prefer to think of AI in these contexts as augmented intelligence. So using that data to suggest that different things are implemented. So using the data of how busy a kitchen is to recommend what the impact of capacity on a restaurant, for example. So the data shows us that things are about to get busy, looking back on historical trends. Therefore, we recommend you look at bringing in extra staff in a few hours' time, looking at trends of data of stock depletion and slowing down specific channels, etc. So looking at all of the data that's happening and then really driving decisions off that. I think the role of data now is far more than just where it used to be historically, which is around some historic static reports and kind of rear view mirror stuff. I think the data now and the way that it can help drive decisions gives us some real sort of leading indicators on the decisions that we need to make and drive that through. So really just touch on some stats here just to sort of bring things to a close really. The first one's quite interesting. 40% of consumers feel safer in venues that use order and pay technology. And this one really relates to the pandemic. I think obviously order and pay applications, it does reduce some of those in-person touch points. It allows you to maintain your own social isolation, puts you in control of ordering, and the stats bear that through. And obviously a lot of people feel safer being able to use the technology solutions that have been provided for them. I think there's quite a high number of people that have been satisfied. 76% of people's a fairly good stat with the ease of ordering through digital solutions, and that's really the bearing fruit to this frictionless theme that we need to think about in combining all of these quite disparate pieces of technology at the different phases of a customer's journey to make all of that seamless, and to get a stat like this is really good. The next one, 34% will continue to use order and pay technology after COVID measures are eased. I personally think this one will see this grow, and I think we'll see this actually be a lot higher. I think you'd agree, Stuart. The continued use of these type of technologies after COVID we'll see that just increase. I think you're going out into a busy pub garden, the ability to not have to traipse inside, place an order at a bar, bring all the drinks out. I think just the ease of being able to say, I'm at table 43, I'm at the end of the garden, here's my new order, and get the drinks brought out, for example. We'll see the continued use of these technologies, and I think people are getting used to them now. I think they'll just continue.
Yeah, I think the more mature apps are showing that actually they're just getting busier and more people are using them. So I think it's absolutely, the increase will definitely just continue.
Yeah. And there's an interesting stat just at the bottom here about the 18 to 24-year-old demographic. And I think we're certainly seeing with this younger age range a definite shift to ordering online, whether that's through click and collect, whether it's through pre-ordering before they come into venue. Certainly this age range is making a lot of use of technology. And it's quite interesting when you sort of look through all the stats. obviously in hospitality, we're having to cater for a very diverse demographic of people that visit our venues. So making those technologies relevant to people, to all the different age ranges, to all different demographics is definitely a challenge. And it's definitely something that we're seeing here, where the younger age groups are making use of that online and that kind of omni-channel journeys through the solutions. So at this point, I kind of just say thanks for your time, and hopefully you found some of that interesting, and hopefully there's some useful insight there into the end-to-end journey and where some of the technology solutions can really facilitate a joined up, connected journey that's both frictionless but personalised to our consumers. And I think at this point we'll hand over to some questions if there are any.
Yeah, thank you both for the presentation. So your first question is, you said the pandemic has expedited a shift in the use of technology. What do you think the blockers were pre-pandemic?
Great question. So I think that it's really around kind of wider technology adoption. I think the forcing of people into a kind of table service only environment has really meant that the technologies that were already on the rise pre-pandemic, and certainly things like mobile ordering was definitely on the rise pre-pandemic. I think this has just provided the absolute ideal use case in a way to expedite that shift in technology. I think closely linked with that, having table service only has really driven the use of bookings and that bookings technology. So in a way they weren't necessarily blockers, but I think what the pandemic's done is really accelerated that shift that was already happening. And providing technology solutions that can really join these two up, can join your booking process up straight into your in-venue experience is just absolutely critical.
Thank you. What would you say are the biggest sources of frustration that technology can alleviate?
I think there's a number of things here, and there's I think the top three frustrations that we've seen through some of the industry stats. I think probably the top one is waiting too long for an order. So you're in venue, you've ordered, and then it kind of goes into a bit of a black hole. You don't know when the order's coming out. It's frustrating if it takes too long to come out. So there's a real role that technology can play here. And it starts from that kind of kitchen management, as I said earlier, using the data that's that rich source of data that we've got flowing through the kitchen, to exposing that out so that we can then put that in the hands of our consumers. Through, for example, in a mobile and pay app, we can add a status indicator on there to show where your order is. It's being cooked, it's being prepared, it's ready, it's going to be brought out by Jason, your server. He'll be with you shortly. And alleviating that unknown is an absolutely critical thing. So I think that waiting too long for an order is the number one frustration. I think the other thing that obviously the technology solution counters is the next frustration down, which is around the order being wrong. So again, putting the visibility of the order, the control of the order into consumers' hands means you know exactly what's been ordered, and that you did order a pepperoni, not a pastrami, as was written down on the waiter's notepad. So having visibility of that, confidence that the order's that is right, is what you've ordered is critical. And then I think that the third one down was a fairly bizarre one, but actually quite high up on the list, was food being cold when it arrives. So again, technology solutions here about making sure that the server knows which table it was ordered for, the timings. Again, it's that rich data that's coming through kitchen management, so we can understand when the orders were placed and the serve times, cook times, all that kind of stuff. Bringing that all together into all the various different apps can help alleviate them. So I think they were some of the top three sources, specifically in venue, that we've heard about.
Thank you. How are the stats in the older generations with regards to ordering and paying via apps?
Stats in the older generation, I think it's consistent with all technology adoption uses that the older demographics, the adoption of technology is slightly lower, and that is borne out through some of the industry stats that we see. The importance here in technology solutions is just making it as easy to use as possible. If you think back a few years, nobody knew what a QR code was. So people are starting to understand technology, things like QR codes now, how to use them, how to scan them on your phone, that kind of stuff. So I think making things easier and clearer is absolutely critical. I think the other thing we're seeing as well is the increased reliance on assistance in venues. So having all the waiters, waitresses, the staff in store being able to help people with mobile ordering and show them how quick and easy it is absolutely critical. But I think it's definitely borne out in the stats that the younger generations are the kind of primary users of the technology solutions.
Thank you. What most influences the takeaway/delivery channel variation? Having established it's mostly weather, what is the most influential variable for a predictive model?
I think it's definitely availability. So making sure the full range of the menu is available through all of the channels. Price obviously affects that. But yes, as you've mentioned there, obviously weather is one of the biggest things that affects that channel. I think you'd agree, Stuart?
Yeah, definitely.
So certainly we've seen through the stats when at the minute with outdoor dining only, when the weather's bad, the number of orders and the flow through the system we're seeing is a lot less.
Thank you. Picking up on the personalisation not being sterile, can you expand on the role of technology in making this a reality?
Yes, I think it's about knowing your customer and understanding as much as you can about your customer, and then actually using that data at each stage. So, as I said, through the booking process, making sure that any preferences, any allergens, so pre-ordering, for example, making sure that if we know somebody has a specific allergy, then let's not show them the menu for that has those allergies, or let's at least make it very clear, as clear as possible, where the food with those allergen restrictions are. Flowing that personalised data through into the in-venue, so greeting people, making sure we know their history, the types of things they like to order, so that we can show that to them. But I think most of all, the thing about not being sterile is not losing that human touch, which I think is, it's come through loud and clear in all the stats that we've seen. That technology needs to be there to facilitate the journeys and make it frictionless, but people definitely don't want to lose that human touch.
Yeah, that human touch is so important, and I think the pandemic has absolutely shown 100% that we can't lose that in our sector, in our industry. It's so important that the human people and the way that our amazing staff interact with the consumers is really, really important, and we should never lose that.
Great. How does Zonal enable operators to see and have AI to make smarter business decisions?
Great question. So Zonal specifically, we're working on our next generation data solution. So building on top of all of the data that we can see flowing through, not just our apps, but the actual wider ecosystem. As I mentioned before about the kitchen, the bookings, the in-venue, the mobile ordering, so combining all of this data together. So we're going to be building on all of that data that we've got to, in the first instance, as I said earlier, it's a heavy focus on augmented intelligence. So we'll be using AI and machine learning in the background to suggest to managers, to suggest to staff where they could improve, or decisions to make, or stock to order, or etc. So, and there'll be a way of then actioning that decision. I think as that beds in, as people become more used to that kind of technology, there'll be the option to flick that into, don't just suggest something, don't just augment somebody else's intelligence, but actually those type of decisions, we're just comfortable to let the system make those decisions. And then it's about visibility of the decisions that are being made, and intervening where any alternative decisions want to be driven in. I think the last thing that we want is to sort of completely hand over control, and I don't think people would feel comfortable with that, but definitely augmenting the intelligence in the first place and relying on all those technologies to suggest actions is something that we're looking at quite hard.
Thank you. And just following on from that question, if members don't have the full Zonal suite but use other providers such as Design My Night and Wireless Social, will Zonal integrate enough with them to enable us to use AI tools?
Yeah, so this Zonal's future direction is about a unified hospitality platform. So for us, it's about having all the different functionality available that can support that hospitality ecosystem. So you might be using our POS, our booking system, but not our mobile ordering system, for example. So our platform will be providing a unified hospitality API, if you like, that not only can you use our best of breed applications on top of, but also select third-party applications that we've integrated with and we're partners with, that can also use our platform. And that's really important about having a unified platform, because off the back of that unified platform, we can derive all of that data and we can flow that through into our data warehousing, our data lakes, and we can feed all of that into our machine learning algorithms and capabilities. And that data can then be surfaced not just through sort of dashboards, but through the sort of decision-making, manager applications, etc., but also surfaced out to third parties that want to subscribe to some of that real-time analytics and data. So it's, that unified platform is absolutely critical, and that's where we're focusing.
Thank you. What alternative payment methods do you think will make things easier for consumers to pay in the future?
So I think there's definitely frictionless payment methods definitely go hand in hand. So as I mentioned before about stored payment methods, the last thing that any of us want to be doing now is sort of, if you're on an order and pay app, for example, is fumbling around trying to enter your credit card details. And certainly a lot of consumers now putting a lot more faith in stored payment mechanisms. So certainly the mobile wallets, the Apple Pay, the Android Pays of the world are becoming more common, a lot more common. Ultimately, though, it's about putting choice into consumers' hands. So as new payment technologies arise, then we need to be supporting that. We need to be able to make that option available. I think, looking forward into the future, there are the kind of distributed ledger cryptocurrencies that are definitely on the rise, and being able to allow people to pay by Bitcoin, for example, may become a very real reality in the not so distant future. So yeah, we're keeping an eye on all of the payment trends as they arise and how we support those. Again, it's about giving customers choice, and that's the choice. I think there was one study done about visible and invisible payment. So in some cases, you want payment to be invisible. So when I make a booking, you know me, you know my payment details, so just carry that all the way through my booking. Don't ask me to present my card again at the end when I've already given you the payment details. But in other cases, that needs to be very visible. So I may have booked and paid a deposit with a card, but I now want to split the bill with 6 of my friends. So I want to be in control of the payment mechanism. So it's as much about the consumer control as it is about the individual payment method.
Thank you. And final question, how do you create a seamless journey with a multitude of offerings, all using different technology in a large tech stack?
So I think that's a brilliant question that really highlights the platform strategy, the unified platform strategy that we're on here at Zonal. So having an API that can support the wide ecosystem of hospitality technology solutions, whether that be through our best of breed applications or whether it's integration with other third-party applications. But having that API there that can support that seamless journey, that can carry a customer from the very inception, the very start of making offers and making bookings, all the way through in venue, through the payment, and tying that into that feedback and reflection at the end, really closing the loop. It's just so vital to have a unified platform that can support that, so that from the end customer's view, it is frictionless, it's joined up, it's personalized, and all that good stuff.
Perfect, thank you. So we'll bring the webinar to a close, and in fact the actual series. So I'd like to thank John and Stuart for your participation today, and to all our supplier members who've taken part in the series. We hope you found the tips, the guidance and the insight useful in preparations for reopening. You can catch all the webinars and slide recordings via the member portal, so please log in when you have some free time. And on a final note, just all the best to everyone who's reopening next week. I hope it goes well. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly good luck with that.
All right then, thank you all and have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.